Hi, gang. Mikey D here. And if I were king, I would have the politicians listen to the American public instead of being toadies for the National Rifle Association. And by the way, this is the time to discuss what's happening with guns in America. First off, I understand the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms, and in no way am I trying to suggest we curtail that right. But using common sense and bowing to the will of Americans doesn't trample on the right to bear arms. And excuse the pun, but please don't shoot the messenger. However, here are the raw facts. At least 80% of Americans support banning sales to those on a terror watch list, mandatory loss and theft reporting, banning sales to mentally ill, universal background checks, banning sales to stalkers, banning sales to violent criminals, childproof locks, reporting all sales to the federal government, and increased penalties for illegal possession. 7 out of 10 Americans support mandatory safety training, mandatory licensing, mandatory waiting periods, mandatory safe storage, national buybacks for banned guns, ammo background checks, a national firearms registry. And 60% of the country wants to ban guns from college campuses, ban assault weapons, banning high-capacity magazines, banning the sale of semi-automatic guns, and banning guns in the workplace. Now, none of these proposals would affect hunters or someone's right to have a gun in their own home or car for protection. But the National Rifle Association, which spent more than $50 million in federal elections in 2016 and millions more on state elections and lobbying efforts, opposes almost every form of gun control and regulations. The NRA is against restrictions on owning an assault weapon, any type of database of gun purchases, background checks on purchases made at gun shows, and any changes in the way firearms are registered. And when the NRA says jump, too many elected officials say, how high? But what the hell do we need assault weapons or semi-automatic firearms or a bump stock that turns a semi-automatic into an automatic instrument of death? Las Vegas, Orlando, Charleston, South Carolina, Aurora, Colorado, Newtown, Connecticut, Columbine, and the list goes on and on. And if you are in the small minority that agrees with the NRA that nothing needs to change, remember, you are out of step with the majority of America that is sick of senseless deaths. And that's why if I were king, I'd have the politicians listen to the American public instead of being toadies for the NRA. I'm Mike Deason.